You ever had one of those movies where you explain the plot to somebody who's never seen it before and it sounds absolutely terrible, but actually the movie's really good? The Terminator!
I can see that.
Directed and written by James Cameron, The Terminator is a cyborg played by Arnold Schwarzenegger who arrives from the future to Los Angeles, harassing a Bill Paxton cameo, going to a shop to buy some firearms,
but he would not sell me gun, since I'm not American,
whilst murdering women called Sarah Connor using the phone book to do so. By the way, why would a Terminator need to use his finger to physically search through the phone book? He's got like cyborg vision.
This is a mistake.
This leads everyone to rush to save the next Sarah in the book, played by Linda Hamilton, who is protected by the cops, one of which is played by Lance Henriksen, whilst a man who also claims to be from the future, called Kyle Reese, played by Michael Biehn, just to make the aliens reunion complete,
I guess so.
tries to protect her and warn her of what's to come, claiming that in the future her son John will become a military leader fighting against a cyborg unit known as Skynet, which leads to a nuclear war. The Terminator has come to kill her and therefore prevent John's birth and stop the rebellion against his kind. Like I said, that sounds really dumb. Then Kyle professes his love for Sarah, they fight the Terminator and inevitably win, but not without Kyle dying in the process, ending with Sarah being pregnant with John at the hands of Kyle's penis. Oh, we'll get to that.
I'm sure.
The movie all came about in Rome when James Cameron had just released Piranha 2: The Spawning, which sounds like it deserves a review at some point, but the director became ill and dreamt about a metallic torso holding kitchen knives dragging itself away from an explosion. He took inspiration from John Carpenter's Halloween, which is ironic because many consider it the other way around, often stating the later sequels ripped off Terminator, but anyway, sidetracked. Cameron used this dream to begin work on a slasher film, but his agent hated the concept and asked him to do something else instead. Cameron then fired his agent on the spot. Ouch!
Jesus.
When back in the States, James wrote up the first draft of the screenplay, being influenced by the likes of The Outer Limits, The Driver and Mad Max 2. He brought Bill Wisher on board to help with storytelling, allowing him to write Sarah Connor's scenes and the sequences with the police department. The original script had 2 cyborgs being sent back, one of which was the basic idea of the T-1000 later used in the sequel. Paramount were interested in picking up the project but refused to let James Cameron direct it, so he looked elsewhere. Gail Ann Hurd, Cameron's wife at the time, was working with New World Pictures and bought the rights to the script for $1. I'm not making that up. $1. But of course there was a catch. Cameron allowed her to produce, but only if he could direct. She did offer suggestions to the script, but the director claims that she did not write any of it.
Hey!
Orient Pictures agreed to distribute the movie, but only if he could get funding elsewhere, which was done so with the Hemdale Film Corporation, who gave a budget of $4 million originally, which would later increase to $6.5 million. To actually secure the deal, James Cameron got his good friend Lance Henriksen to show up dressed and acting like the Terminator. Well, whatever works, I guess.
Exactly!
Originally, the studio wanted the actor of Kyle Reese to be an up-and-coming star in the States and pitched Arnold Schwarzenegger, but Cameron thought if he was Kyle, he would need someone even bigger as the Terminator. The role of the cyborg was offered to Sylvester Stallone and Mel Gibson, both of which turned it down, and even O.J. Simpson was considered. Ironically, James Cameron claims that O.J. wasn't right for the role because he would not be believable as a killer. Well, this is a bit awkward.
I don't understand.
There actually was a mock poster made of him in the role, and others considered were Tom Selleck, who turned it down due to his commitments to Magnum P.I., Kevin Kline, Michael Douglas, Jurgen Prochnow, Randy Quaid, Harrison Ford and Richard Gere. Cameron was so against Schwarzenegger being cast that he actually planned to meet him, pick a fight and then decide he's not right for the role. But when they met, he actually really liked Arnold, who spoke vividly about how the Terminator character should be portrayed. James began sketching Arnold's face down, and he then contacted the studio to say that he will not be playing Kyle Reese, but he would make a damn good Terminator.
This is fucking great.
However, Arnold himself wasn't actually too thrilled about starring in it. On the set of Conan, he literally referred to it as, "Oh, some shit movie I'm doing. It will only take a couple of weeks." In his book Total Recall,
total fucking shit,
he admitted he was hesitant because playing a robot in a contemporary film would be a challenging change of pace after Conan the Barbarian, but it was low profile enough to not damage his career if it flopped. He even admitted he only originally took on the role because of the money. It was a small movie, we really had to cut costs all of the time. We shot it very quickly. We felt we had a good story and it would be successful, but we thought it would be for certain audiences only. No one suspected it would be in Time Magazine's top 10 movies of the year and that successful at the box office that people would demand a sequel that would be the highest grossing movie of that year.
Look at it this way, in 100 years, who's gonna care?
Originally, rock sensation Sting was even considered for the part of Kyle Reese, as was Bruce Willis and Mickey Rourke before Michael Biehn was picked up, though the actor himself wasn't keen on it either, thinking that the film was silly. Allegedly, every other actor who came to audition for the part acted so tough you just wouldn't buy a genuine connection between them and Sarah Connor, especially considering the characters would have to fall in love in an insanely short amount of time. Deborah Winger was the first choice to play Sarah and accepted but later changed her mind. Julia Louis-Dreyfus turned it down due to scheduling conflicts with Saturday Night Live. Bridget Fonda rejected an offer. Kate Capshaw was too busy shooting Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Kathleen Turner was romancing the Stone. Tatum O'Neal was given it before Cameron decided he wanted Sarah to be older. Glenn Close accepted the part but had to back out when his schedule was no longer available. Daryl Hannah turned it down to star in Splash. And we all remember that one. And others considered were Rosanna Arquette, Gina Davis, Michelle Pfeiffer, Diane Lane, Carrie Fisher, Sharon Stone, Kelly McGillis, Leah Thompson, Gilda Radner, Susan Sarandon, Rhea Perlman, Sigourney Weaver, Sybil Shepherd, Jane Seymour, Angelica Houston, Laurie Loughlin, Kim Basinger, Jodie Foster, Melanie Griffith, Christy Brinkley, Diane Keaton, Goldie Hawn, Jamie Lee Curtis, Ali Sheedy, Jessica Lange, Sissy Spacek, Kay Lenz, Liza Minnelli, Maya Farrow, Barbara Hershey, Miranda Richardson, Meg Ryan, Heather Locklear, Jennifer Grey, Madonna, Amy Irving, Terry Garr and Margot Kidder before James Cameron went for his future wife-to-be Linda Hamilton. He also wanted Dick Smith to be responsible for the special effects, previously working on The Godfather and Taxi Driver, but he turned him down and instead suggested Stan Winston, who did Predator, Aliens... Another one for the list?
Yes, sir.
Filming was due to begin in 1983 in Toronto, Canada, but things were postponed while Arnold filmed Conan the Destroyer. During this time, Cameron refused to just recast and instead waited for Schwarzenegger, meanwhile writing up Rambo First Blood Part 2, as well as tweaking the Terminator script and coming up with the previously reviewed masterpiece, Aliens. The studio initially wanted Kyle's character to also have a dog android with him. No, that's dumb.
Oh my god.
Which Cameron dismissed, but he did insert more scenes to strengthen the relationship with him and Sarah. In March of 1984, shooting finally began in Los Angeles, California, and the director claimed that Arnold allowed him to try out new techniques that he had never even thought of before, upping horror scenes to a new level and having exposition take place during a car chase sequence, which was so unique at the time. To delay things further, however, Linda Hamilton sprained her ankle not long before shooting began, but she taped it up and acted in agony for most of the production. Arnold himself also postponed more scenes for 2 days as he decided that his jacket just wasn't manly enough. Weirdly, the most famous line of the entire movie was almost changed because Arnold's accent caused him difficulty to pronounce the word aisle, and he also felt his robotic character wouldn't speak in contractions, but Cameron refused to change it to I will be back, and Arnold pronounced it as best as he could. Cameron literally told him, I don't tell you how to act, so don't tell me how to write.
Fuck you, asshole.
Many concepts were dropped. Originally, Sarah was going to have a figure skating injury, causing her to get a scar on her leg, which the Terminator would then be looking for on all of his victims. There was also a scene where he spots an old lady accidentally reversing her car before he steals it and mimics her mistake and copies her actions, explaining how he knows how to drive.
For God's sakes, he can't drive a car. He was doing very well last night. Maybe someone around here gave him lessons.
And there are many goofy scenes of Arnold drinking beer, eating chocolate with the wrapper still on it, but Cameron scrapped any sequences of the Terminator looking silly. We'll save that for the third one.
Shouldn't have said that.
The studio had very little faith in the project and expected negative reception, but the Terminator premiered on October the 26th, 1984, soon becoming #1 at the box office and remaining there in its second week, grossing a worldwide total of $78.3 million. I loved the movie and was so blown away by it, but I really believed the screenplay was just based on a short story and episode of The Outer Limits I had written entitled Soldier. Ellison actually threatened to sue James Cameron for copyright infringement, but the studio settled the case in 1986, giving him an undisclosed amount of money and even crediting him in later copies of the movie. Many also stated that it ripped off another episode called Demon with a Glass Hand, but Ellison claims that it was just Soldier that they stole material from and none other. James Cameron was furious at the studio's decision to pay him off and claimed that he had no choice but to agree with the settlement. He called the plagiarism accusation completely untrue.
Hey, shut up.
It's a blazing cinematic comic book full of virtuoso movie making, terrific momentum, solid performances and a compelling story. Schwarzenegger is perfectly cast in a machine-like portrayal that requires only a few lines of dialogue. The film has plenty of tech noir savvy to keep infidels and action fans satisfied. It's a cracking thriller full of all sorts of gory treats, loaded with fuel-injected chase scenes, clever special effects and a sly humour. It's the most chilling science action thriller since Alien. But clearly, some people just didn't pay much attention to the movie at all.
You're kidding me.
The distinguishing virtue of the Terminator is its relentless tension. Right from the start, it's all action and violence with no time taken to set up the story. It's like a streamlined Dirty Harry movie. No exposition at all, just guns, guns, and more guns. Yep, no exposition whatsoever.
Terminator, Cyberdyne Systems Model 101. Their defense grid was smashed. We'd won. Taking out Connor then would make no difference. There was a nuclear war. A few years from now.
Don't suppose you know who the father is, so I won't tell him to get lost when I meet him.
And John never said much about him. Underneath, it's a hyperalloy combat chassis. Microprocessor controlled, fully armored, very tough.
Yeah, if you're gonna review a movie, make sure you actually watch it, you moron.
He's a loon.
It's a film that manages to both be derivative and original at the same time. Not since The Road Warrior has the genre exhibited so much exuberant carnage. It's an example of science fiction horror at its best. Cameron's no-nonsense approach will make him a sought-after commodity. It's just a B-movie with flair. Much of it has suspense and personality, and only the obligatory mayhem becomes dull. There is far too much of the latter, in the form of car chases, messy shootouts, and Mr. Schwarzenegger slamming brutality into anything that gets in his way. It's just another of the films drenched in artsy ugliness like Streets of Fire and Blade Runner. At times it's horrifyingly violent and suspenseful. At others it giggles at itself. This schizoid style actually helps, providing a little humour just when the sci-fi plot turns too sluggish or the dialogue too hokey. The film is a lurid, violent, pretentious piece of claptrap. It's repellent to the last degree, insidious Nazification. It has an appeal rooted in an unholy compound of fascism, fashion and fascination. What originally seemed a somewhat inflated, if generous and energetic big picture, now seems quite a good little film. It's one of the most original movies of the 1980s and seems likely to remain one of the best sci-fi films ever made. Original? Harry and Ellison, I think someone would like a word with you.
Do you understand?
It's a 5-star film. It's the sci-fi action thriller that launched the careers of James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger into the stratosphere, and it's still endlessly entertaining. It's an amazingly effective picture that becomes doubly impressive when one considers its small budget. For our money, this film is far superior to its mega-grossing, mega-budgeted sequel. Hey, I found the one person alive who preferred the original!
Shut up!
It's as chillingly efficient in exacting thrills from its audience as its titular character is in executing its targets. The film established James Cameron as a master of action, special effects, and quasi-mythic narrative intrigue, while turning Arnold Schwarzenegger into the hard-body star of the 1980s. It's like some slick, rather nasty, but undeniably compelling comic book adventures. The AFI listed it as 42nd on its list of the 100 most heart-pounding films, the Terminator as the 22nd greatest movie villain ever, the famous line,
I'll be back.
was voted as the 37th greatest quote in history, Total Film named it the 72nd greatest feature film, Empire put it as the 308th best movie, and The Terminator as the 14th greatest movie character. The Independent Film and Television Alliance picked it as one of the 30th most significant independent movies of the last 30 years. It won 3 Saturn Awards for Best Sci-Fi Film, Best Makeup and Best Writing, and it spanned 4 sequels and an upcoming reboot which we'll get onto another time. But for now, The Terminator, the original The Terminator, in my mind, is a damn good film.
What the hell?
It has its problems, which I'll go over shortly, because of course I will! But for the most part, it is a damn entertaining flick. The musical score at times is really unique. I mean, I'll always dig the Terminator theme, but during some crazy chase sequences, there's this really innovative and original electronic score. It adds the sci-fi feel more, and it's really different to what you'd normally expect. The gore isn't over the top, and when it happens, it's simple, graphic, but it doesn't overdo it. All of the acting performances are tremendous, especially Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese. I think he steals the show and gives the performance of a lifetime here.
That Terminator is out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop. Ever. Until you are dead.
That's all he does! You can't stop him! He'll wait for you, reach down your throat, and pull her fucking heart out!
Oh, except for...
What day is it? The date?
12 May, Thursday.
What year?
I'm acting! The effects and ideas are really revolutionary. They may not have been entirely original, but Cameron makes it his own, and I also think that Arnold does not get enough credit for his performance in these films, but we'll get onto that more in the sequel. Subtle touches like having his eyes move first and allowing his head to later catch up, very robotic-like, really show how much of an underrated talent he is. I also love the transition from Sarah in the original as a normal generic damsel in distress to the badass she would later become in part 2. Linda Hamilton is a treat, and although some of the others considered may have been better, I think she brought something unique to this role. But apparently the character was supposed to be 18, and sorry Linda, but no. The direction is terrific. Some of this camera work or slow motion shots build the suspense impeccably, and Cameron I would always credit for being able to visually tell a story perfectly. There's a scene where it looks like Arnold is about to find Sarah, but it's actually Kyle. You really get caught up in it and are yelling for Sarah to escape. It's really great stuff.
I know.
The problems? Well, let's get through the biggest one first. And easily the biggest plot hole in movie history. Seriously.
What is it?
Don't get me wrong, this is a great film, but I'm amazed at the amount of people who ignore or refuse to even acknowledge this plot hole. So during the film, Kyle has the sexy time with Sarah and impregnates her, revealing himself to be John's father. This means that John sent his own father back in time to protect his mother, knock her up and conceive him. What? And the weird thing is, I've like pressed this to people and they've tried to explain that this is a paradox, but it is perfectly possible for it to happen. No, it's not. Here's a basic science lesson.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the timeline. 1984 hits and John isn't born. He's not born because Kyle Reese isn't around. Fast forward however many years into the future and John Connor then sends Kyle back in time to conceive him. But wait, he can't because he wasn't born in 1984 to begin with. Therefore, how the donkey splooge can he send his father back in time when he wasn't frickin' born in the original timeline in the first place?
What did he just say?
It's such a huge plot hole that could have just been fixed with a few rewrites, and they even try to justify the awful writing here.
Should I tell you about your father? Boy, that's a tough one. Will it affect your decision to send him here, knowing that he is your father?
But he has to, otherwise he won't be able to be born.
If you don't send Kyle, you can never be.
Exactly, that's what I just said.
God, a person could go crazy thinking about this.
Not as crazy as the person who wrote this crap.
I'm sure there's a point to all of this.
But once you ignore that and get past it, there's still more plot holes. Like when Kyle first arrives, he's chased by the police for putting on some trousers. I mean, they are a homeless man's trousers, but is it really worth a police chase? Why the hell would he knock politely? I mean, he asks if she's Sarah Connor, but later he has absolutely no care if he's murdering the right one at all. In fact, what was the plan this whole time? There must be hundreds of Sarah Connors in Los Angeles. Was he going to just simply murder every single one? I mean, surely after 4 or 5 croak, the rest would just flee and bollock up the entire plan.
So incredible. You're not going to believe it. Sit down. You are going to love this. What?
Has been compiled from several witnesses. Once again, Sarah Connor, 35, mother of 2, brutally shot to death in her home this afternoon.
You're dead, honey.
Another late-breaking...
Why would you make such a big deal about this? Oh my god, did you see the news? I saw someone with your exact name! Yeah, I really couldn't give a shit. Imbecile. Oh, you! The police and press all go nuts over the fact that 2 people with the same name were killed consecutively. Why is this such a big deal? I mean, I'd understand if it's like 4 or 5, but it's like 2. Just 2. Just 2 Sarah Connors killed in a row. I mean, do coincidences just not exist here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good move, good move. Oh, my turn again. Oh my god, you're obviously a wizard! You're using witchcraft on this game! How dare you! Oh my god, I'm gonna call the authorities! I will get you hanged! And Sarah freaks out about it too, I don't get it, it's just 2 times! Sarah's roommate Ginger has sex with headphones on. Who does that? I mean, I've had sex to music before, but not with headphones! She doesn't even look like she's enjoying it! And she carries on afterwards. I must say, it must be pretty lousy in bed if you didn't even damage a player or headphones.
How do I look? Like shit, boss. Yo, mama.
This is a grown man, a police officer, in an action movie in the 80s. The era of awesome comebacks. And he says it so confidently, like he's just put him in his place. The Terminator is referred to as a cyborg, but he isn't actually a cyborg because a cyborg can't survive without its organic components, which Arnold does at the end of the film, so therefore he's not a cyborg. Or the fact Kyle says Terminators feel no pain, so therefore he shouldn't be affected by bullets whatsoever. He shouldn't even flinch, let alone be launched back.
Hi there. Fooled you. You're talking to a machine.
This voicemail recording is different to earlier's.
Hi there. Fooled you. You're talking to a machine.
They seriously messed up something as simple as that. Arnold crashes this car and the cops immediately show up, but apparently a 6-foot bodybuilding Austrian robot can teleport since nobody spots him leaving the car.
Well, how are you supposed to get back?
I can't. Nobody goes home. Nobody else comes through.
Until the next movie. Did he seriously just check his hair? Why would a robot need to check his hair?
Oh my god, my hair is not the best. My hair needs to be the best when I massacre the people. Oh my god, everybody must see Link's hair gel. Oh my god, I must look the absolute smoothest. Oh yes, Mr. Gel. They will call me Mr. Gel. Everyone must realize that I am the sexiest Terminator. Oh yes, the cyborg from the future. Look at that. Look at that hair. Oh yes, that is the best. Yes, Terminator. Where's Miko?
This is great stuff. I could make a career out of this guy. You see how clever this part is? How it doesn't require a shred of proof? And most paranoid delusions are intricate, but this is brilliant.
Did he just describe religion? He again acts polite before bursting through the police station. I mean, he asks nicely before saying sod it and getting a car. Kyle and Sarah park their car and then chill under a nearby bridge for the night, becoming an open target for a Terminator attack like a pair of idiots. This cop is smiling far too much for someone who's confronting a machine killer. If the Terminator can imitate anybody's voice, why doesn't he do this throughout the entire film to trick them? I mean, he only does it twice, once as a cop and once as Sarah's mother. In fact, when Sarah's at the police station, she's told that her mum is on her way to the station and will be there in about an hour. Moments later, the Terminator attacks, and the next day she gets a call from her mum, though she's being imitated, but there's no mention or acknowledgement of her travelling to her whatsoever. Sarah doesn't question it, and mobile phones didn't exist back then, and she didn't even say that she stopped off anywhere. And why does it take the Terminator so long to make it to the motel anyway? I was able to watch The Godfather Part 2 by the time he got back to the motel. Actually, let me just double check. Nope, still playing.
Reese. You got a first name.
Why did she just assume that Reese wasn't his first name? I mean, Reese is a pretty common first name, Sarah.
Hey, buddy. You got a dead cat in there or what?
Looking at this guy, he's not really one to judge someone else's smell.
It'll never be over, will it?
This franchise, probably not. And there's no way of disputing it here. Sarah is outrunning a goddamn tanker truck. We often cut to a wide shot and the distance between her and the vehicle constantly changes to give her more of a lead. But no.
Move it, Reese! On your feet, soldier!
That was hilariously cringy. And the thing is, I think it was supposed to be serious.
What's most difficult for me is trying to decide what to tell you and what not to. But I guess I have a while yet before you're old enough to even understand these tapes.
And even longer before you can even begin to comprehend the logic of you sending your own father back in time before you were born to pork your mum and then die before going back to the future and you sent... whatever.
And he's ashamed to ask you for $5 American for this picture. But if he doesn't, his father will beat him.
Pretty good hustle, kid. Quattro.
See.
What a bitch! He says he needs $5 or his father will beat him up, and she deliberately just gives him $4. I mean, she says that he's hustling, but she doesn't know that for certain. She just intentionally gives him $1 short just for shits and giggles. What a fucking bitch! Also, the budget is really evident at times. I mean, the sequel still holds up on the special effects side of things, but here, not only did they literally film on streets without a permit due to the lack of money, but just look at this model of Arnold's face. It looks awful. The explosions look great, but the Terminator stuff really hasn't aged well, especially when he loses his skin. The stop motion movements are terrible. But who cares? The epic fight ends with this badass line.
You're a terminated fucker.
Thank God they didn't end it with that cliche son of a bitch variation. Also, if it feels no pain, this shouldn't really kill him or lose its grip on her throat, should it? Just saying.
It's driving me crazy.
But if you can switch your brain off and not question the plot holes, it's definitely an entertaining 2 hours. The suspense is outrageous with many fake out endings, and you truly want Sarah and Kyle to survive. You're begging for them to make it out alive. It's intense as hell and a very well put together thrill ride of romance, horror, action and sci-fi. All you can ask for in a great blockbuster. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more, I'm reviewing every film in the 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die 2016 edition book. So make sure you subscribe to keep up to date with them and also turn on notifications to be alerted for each episode. You can vote for which film to be reviewed next at the link in the description. What do you think of the Terminator? Let me know about it in the comments below and I'll see you in the next video. Every time I try to record, my neighbours blast music. It's 11:30 PM and I'm not even making that much noise and they just start playing music. You hear that? Guys, donate money so I can move out of here.